Hello everyone, this is Ommer from Daastan. I cordially welcome you to the first episode of Lit Talks 01, powered by British Council and Demo. So, we had a very interesting session last night where me and Varda explained the vision of Layyah 2.0, that how we are planning to take a rural city of Pakistan in South Punjab and transforming into the creative capital of South. So we gave our entire 10-year plan of how we want to do it. We built a charter which we called Layyah 2.0 Charter, which has 5 points. And keeping that in mind, we have designed these talks to inspire the local youth and especially the women of the KhudKaar House that come there and they come to learn stitching. And today we have a really interesting guest with us. Her name is Pamela from Philippines. She's a fashion entrepreneur and she has really interesting profile. Let me just introduce you. So Pamela is a fashion social entrepreneur from Manila, Philippines. She graduated with an MA Fashion Entrepreneurship and Innovation student from University of Arts London and the Sustainability Innovation Program for Fashion of Cambridge University. She has been a fashion entrepreneur since 17 and have established 4 fashion businesses. She is an advocate of climate change and environmental issues, especially in the fashion industry. At present, she is the founder of 2 fashion enterprises, Phinix and Fibers. Phinix collects textile wastes and turns them into higher value products. Pamela also founded Fibers, which stands for Fashion Inclusive Businesses for Environment, Reformation, and Sustainability. The aim of Fiber is to be a platform of in fashion, social entrepreneurship, ethical fashion, and sustainable fashion. So, with this, without further ado, I would invite Pamela. Hello, Pamela. How are you?
Hi, everybody. Hello. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon from Manila, Philippines. I'm so excited to be here.
I want to cordially thank you for sparing out time out of your busy life and coming online to speak to these people in Pakistan. We are really excited to have you here. And before we begin, I think we would love to know your story, that how you came into this thing and what inspired you to start Phoenix and become a social entrepreneur.
Okay, sure. Like you mentioned a while ago, I actually started my first fashion business when I was 17. So I'm 31 now. So I've been in the business for almost what, 14 years, I think. And I really wanted to be part of the fashion industry for the longest time. But I actually went to pre med school first. So I had my a pre med course. And then during my third year, I made this decision to really, study what I really want, which is fashion. So I shifted to fashion school. So my undergrad then was clothing technology. And while I was doing clothing technology, I really thought I wanted to be a fashion designer. But during my senior year, we had our individual dissertation and thesis, and this was like 6 years ago. And my dissertation was about defining what the fashion social enterprise is in the Philippines. So I wanted to create a criteria that really defines what you call a fashion social enterprise. Because of this, I actually interviewed a lot of fashion social enterprises in the Philippines, and then this inspired me to create my own social enterprise. So how did I actually become a social entrepreneur? So I really inspired by my dissertation, I wanted to solve an issue, a social issue, or an environmental issue, especially in the fashion industry. And this was more on textile waste. I noticed that in the Philippines, there is no textile recycling center, and that we have no proper disposal for our textile waste. And so one day, as I was cleaning my closet, I thought, why don't I turn my old clothes, like, my old dresses, into shoes or bags? So this is how Phoenix actually came about. It was all because of my dissertation back in university. So yeah, maybe that would be my initial introduction for now on how I became a fashion social entrepreneur.
Wow, that's really interesting. So, tell us a little bit about sustainable fashion. There is a lot of talk internationally about sustainability, SDGs. We have been doing a lot of advocacy through youth platform and movers as well. So I think we would really love for you to explain what exactly is sustainable fashion and what is the impact of not actually paying attention to this particular thing on our planet.
Okay, sure. Actually, sustainable fashion has different definitions. It's such a broad term that um, right now it has even different categories for you to actually say that a certain brand is sustainable fashion. But let's just put it this way. It's how I define what a social enterprise is. A sustainable fashion brand or sustainable fashion is one that is beyond profit or beyond the trend. It's actually also for the planet and it's also for the people. Most sustainable fashion brands actually answer a certain environmental issue that the fashion industry is causing, or maybe a social impact, especially in terms of the people who actually produce the fashion products. So I think for me, that's the easiest definition of sustainable fashion, given that it has so many definitions nowadays. It is definitely beyond profit, it's also for the planet and for the people.
And there's also a very hot debate going on about the circular economy. So I think we would really love if you can like explain that thing to our audience because for them it's like really new term.
Yes, that's true. Actually, even for us in the fashion industry, the whole circular economy thing is also new to us as well in a way. But we're trying to transition in that area. Okay, so like right now, let me explain. Like the fashion industry is so used to the linear economy. Linear meaning like a line, right? We are so used to just make, consume, and throw. So that's linear. That's it. Like you make it, you use it, and then you throw it. But with the circular economy, to put it simply, you make it, you use it, then you recycle it, and then you turn it into a new product, and then you use that again, and then so it becomes this whole circle wherein the product not really like never dies, but like you use it and you use it and you use it instead of actually using it once and then throwing it away. Yeah, I guess that's the simplest way to define circular economy.
Yeah, I think that's the best ever explanation I have ever heard on the circular economy. So can you tell us a little bit about like your platform Phinix? So you also like transform these textile
Yeah,
waste into this thing. So tell us a little bit about some of the products that your company makes. We would
sure.
really love to know.
Yes. So again, my fashion social enterprise is called Phinix. What we do is we collect textile waste and we transform them into higher value products such as shoes and bags. So right now we actually have two ways of upcycling our textile waste. So I actually have products here. I prepared something here to show you guys.
Sure,
So we
sure.
have first the first way we upcycle fabrics is we cut directly from the textile waste or from the fabric. So for example, we have this shoe right here. You could see it. So it looks like an ordinary shoe, but actually this one is cut directly from an old Japanese kimono. So this was actually from our Japanese kimono line. What we did is we upcycled all these old authentic Japanese kimonos and we turned them into new products like this. The
Wow.
second way we upcycle fabrics is we actually cut the clothes into strips like this. We cut them into strips and then we weave them to a whole new fabric. So there, as you could see, like that's woven textile waste, and then now you have a new fabric, and then from this one we turn these woven fabrics into shoes again or bags. So as you could see
Wow.
here, those are the woven fabrics. So for the longest time, these are our ways of upcycling our textile waste. But right now we are also turning towards homeware. So now we're building this new product called Phinix Bricks, wherein we turn the old clothes into like we shred them, and we're trying to innovate it into bricks so that we can turn them into furnitures and installation walls. So we're still at the prototype stage, but yeah, those are the three ways we're upcycling textile waste. And so that's our environmental impact. But in terms of our social impact, all our products, our wonderful products, are made by local artisans here in the Philippines. Most of our artisans are coming from our shoe industry, which is already considered a sunset industry. So because we have so much competition with countries like China and Vietnam, so a lot of these artisans have been losing their businesses and their jobs. So we try to partner with them as well. Then at the second time, these wonderful woven fabrics that I've just shown you, all the textile weavers of Phinix are persons with disability. So what was
Oh,
something so before they were weaving for therapy purposes, like mental therapy, and then but with the partnership with Phinix now they actually have income because they weave for Phinix. So that is our social impact. So just going back to how I define sustainable fashion, Phinix is beyond profit. We are also for the planet and for the people. There.
wow. That's really inspiring story, and I really love it. So I have like one follow-up question regarding that. So we have seen that artisans do make really creative stuff, but when you go out and market to sell these, and how is the audience response? Are they like excited about purchasing it, or do they still prefer to purchase branded items, or like generally the way people are? No, we don't want to buy the recycled stuff. So how have you seen the audience or general community responding to that? Because that's the biggest challenge that we have here in Pakistan too. They have
That,
amazing products, and when they go out to sell it, they just never get the right price.
that's true. I agree with you. But to answer your question, I think it will all depend on your brand's target market. So, for example, just to share with you, for example, when we sell in here in Southeast Asia, they find it really amazing. Like, wow, like you turn all these textile waste into really beautiful products. But then when they see the price, they will compare it to fast fashion brands and be like, then I'd rather buy from fast fashion brands, or
Yeah,
sometimes the fast fashion brands even offer cheaper products than Phoenix products.
yeah,
So it just means that the way I saw it is that maybe the market is not yet receptive of sustainable fashion products. Like they don't really fully embrace it yet. And also like because what I noticed when we did pop-up stores in Japan and as well as in London, a lot of people really loved it. Like they believed in sustainability so much. So like there's this, you can really compare the differences of which market actually is already progressive with the sustainability market and those that are still embracing it. So I guess it all depends on the target market and how you position your product as well.
and another thing I would like to know is like how you are like positioning yourself. So do you use more digital channels to bring in sales, or do you think that the offline pop-up stores work the best?
Okay, so initially when we first launched our retail, we thought we really want to build into our online platform, and so I actually did a lot of, thankfully for me, luckily for me, a lot of press invited us, so it was easy. It was whenever I like guest on a TV show or like a show would guest Phoenix or feature us. That's when we were actually able to build our online followers, and then that's how we got to build our name. But then I just noticed that there's still this sense of, especially because we're selling footwear, a lot of our customers still actually want to look and try
Yes.
the shoes themselves. And like as a brand also and an entrepreneur, what I notice is there's just different um how do I say it? There's just more deeper interaction with your customers when you see them face to face and do pop-ups, because I just noticed when we do, like when we join bazaars or do pop-up stores, we get to explain further to our customers what our cost is about and what you really do. And I remember we had a pop-up store in Malaysia, and then there was this Japanese guy who saw our products and he said, "Oh, your products remind me of kimonos." And then I explained to him, actually, they are made of kimonos. And then he was really amazed by it that he actually bought 3 pairs of shoes. So, things like that. So I guess it's you just have to find the balance between being an offline and online. But to be honest, I think right now in the new normal and we're all at home, as a brand, we really have to build on your online following and your online sales. Yeah.
And using online, talking more about the online channels. So, what was the first channel or the primary channel that you used? I think I saw your Instagram is like pretty cool. So, what do you guide? What would you guide to these women here in Layyah that what they can do to like take inspiration from you? That
Yeah.
how they should set up their own stores. So, do they need to like go on Insta? What was your strategy? If you can guide them a little bit.
I think for any fashion brand, the best way to go is really Instagram because it's the most visual platform. Actually, a lot of our inquiries and order inquiries come from Instagram. It's like the number one platform for that. But at the same time, like here in the Philippines, we have so much Facebook users. So a lot of people also message us on Facebook. So we really build into our social media. Number one is Instagram and on Facebook. But what we're planning now is to actually expand into TikTok because a lot of our target market actually use TikTok, and in that way also, TikTok will actually allow us to show our process. Like we can actually show our artisans in a more creative way with our videos. So it again, I'll go back to it. All depends on your target market, where your target market hangs out online. And for us, Phinix, it's really on Instagram, Facebook, and now we can see a lot of our consumers are going into TikTok as well. And of course, it pays to have your own website. So ours is actually under renovation now because we are rebranding it. But a lot of people, not just our consumers, but future investors and future partners and collaborators also would like to see your website in general. So yeah,
And
that's our strategy.
and for the Instagram, because these are the people that we are currently helping out through KhudKaar Center in Layyah. So these are like really new towards technology. So what would you suggest you what skills they need to have to actually like run an Instagram store successfully? So what are the like basic key things that they need to master or get their hands a little bit dirty on before actually like opening up a store? So what would
Yeah,
you advise on that?
actually, this is a good question because just to share to you, my day job before for like the last 5 years is I am a social media manager for different brands. So this is actually a good question. And also I answer this as a social media manager and a fashion entrepreneur, but the way to build your brand online is you really have to have a good content, especially if it's a fashion brand or like if you're selling any product online. You start first with really good photos. So it doesn't have to be from like really fancy cameras, but like what they say, like great photographers always say, it's not about the equipment, but it's the person behind the lens. So it's really how you place your products. But if you are selling something online, especially in the fashion industry, the photos, people are very visual in the fashion industry. So it starts first with great photo. Now, your second strategy should be scheduling your content. So the way to grow your channel is to actually feed a lot of content to your present and future consumers. So this way they know you're active, and then use it as a way for your consumers to get to know your products and your business as well. But I would suggest like doing what I always suggest with my clients is doing a social media calendar. So like if you would like to post, if you can post every day, but if not, at least like 4 to 5 times a week, just so they know that you're present. And this way, you really engage more followers to come and follow your brand. So I think right now, for those who are really starting, focus first on the content that you're going to post. Make sure they're really good photos and videos. And then third is post these content on a regular basis. So those are my top 2 tips for now for those who are starting. Yeah.
And building on the same where you left, there is also a good debate that happens about what audience should be targeted? For example, they focus on creating more local content in local language, or should they focus more on creating in English language, because Instagram is like hashtags and everything. It primarily works in English. So that's like a great debate. So what would you suggest, being a social media manager and a social fashion entrepreneur? What would work?
Well, I'll answer this based on my experience. Okay, so like
Sure.
we everything that we post on our platforms are all in English, but the content is for our Filipino consumers. So this was the strategy. Well, also because we I mean, like the Filipinos are mostly an English speaking country, but then at the same time, we our vision was to scale beyond Philippines.
Yep.
And so that's why it was easier for us to like scale to Malaysia, and then now we're trying to reach a new market in London. So again, I'll go back to what I say, like it really depends on who your target market is. But then when we first started, I really had this in mind that I wanted Phinix to be beyond the Philippines. So it has to be more on a global content. Yeah.
And similarly, when we talk about social media and social media marketing, we cannot mention, or we cannot neglect the influencer marketing. So, what would you suggest? Have you tried it? And what are some of the tips that you would suggest to these people here in Pakistan?
So to be honest, like someone from the fashion industry, I'm not really a big believer of influencers because I think for us we are a social enterprise and we're all about the stories, and we're all about authenticity, and I just feel like a lot of this influencer marketing doesn't feel authentic to us. So um, it was never really a big part of our social media strategy. But like what I said a while ago, what brought us more to like have more followers was actually our influencers were our weavers and our artisans, like showing more of our process, and the people behind them actually are the ones that increased our following, because these are real stories, these are authentic stories. And so we didn't need felt the need to actually send our products to celebrities. And in this way, actually, the celebrities were the ones who approached us because,
Wow,
we remain true to our brand. Yeah.
that's really interesting. And I think I would build more on, for example, when you have been working so much on your brand, what do you think are the key challenges that you faced in kind of scaling it? So, anything that a fashion brand or fashion social enterprise is bound to face. So, what would you advise or caution these women entrepreneurs here in Pakistan?
Okay, my number one would be, okay, I'm a solo founder, and um, even if I had all the vision in the world, I cannot operate Phinix by myself. And what I learned the hard way is really, um, it would be really nice to have a team like working on this. Like if you um, until this day, I still don't have a co-founder, but maybe I'm not meant for a co-founder. But like, it would be nice to have the right team, for you to scale. Because, and I take this as a challenge myself, because when you're starting something, especially if it's just your solo idea, it's really hard to find the right people. My mentors would always say like, finding a co-founder is like finding a husband or a wife. So but you really need a team to help you scale. And this was a challenge for me because I didn't have the money to hire the right people.
Yeah,
And just to share to you, like for example, even our artisans, it took me a while to find the right artisans who actually believed in our product, because some of them, usually the first ones, they even said like, why would I turn old clothes into shoes? Like no one would buy that. So the challenge is definitely finding the right people, especially if you're a solo founder. And two is funding. I think everybody would answer this. I attended the British Council report of social enterprises in Southeast Asia, and the number one problem of social enterprises in Southeast Asia is definitely funding.
yes,
Also because a lot of these government programs really don't focus on social enterprises. And I speak through experience because I usually had to compete for grants on an international platform and institutions, not
Yes.
locally, because like fashion social enterprise are not really prioritized here. So those were my two, and then my third would definitely just the operations in general. Like you really have to be focused on your business. Because again, like I'll go back to number one, because I was a solo founder, I was doing everything right. It would so like my mind was scattered everywhere because I have a role here in marketing, I have a role in sales, I have a role in operations, but you really have to make the business operate successfully to bring in profit and to make it run successfully. So yeah, wow, looking back, that was like a deep reflection right there.
And generally, like whenever we set up a business, I think you would relate a lot that the first year I would say is like the hardest, where every week you say, okay, just shut it down. That's too much. So,
Yeah,
but I think you have had that in your life as well. So, what kept you going?
I think, okay, number one is I really believed in Phinix. I always say this to future entrepreneur, like aspiring and current entrepreneurs, like when you start a social enterprise or any business in that sense, you should really know your why. Because, in good days and bad days, this is what will keep you going. So my why was really, I wanted to provide solutions for textile waste and I wanted to help our artisans. So I had like two responsibilities right there. So and my why is always beyond myself. It's not like why because I wanna earn money, be successful, but like I have people to help. I have a fashion industry to clean. So my why is always beyond myself. And I think that it should be the norm that when you're building a business, the impact should always be beyond yourself. And that's what really kept me going. And also because I'm a competitive person and I just when I envision something like this has to happen, So but what I guess what I also learned is as an entrepreneur, okay, that's a really good mindset. You have to persevere, but you should also know when to stop and when to actually change course or pivot. Yeah.
Yes. And have has any like big brand came in and came to compete you or maybe kind of acquire you, or have you like tried working with them? For example, like sourcing your products or doing a partnership, something like that. Have
Yeah.
What was your experience regarding that, and how does usually the process happens? I think that's one area that really needs discussion.
I know. And so actually before, but like during our first few months, one of the biggest fashion brands approached us and wanted to work with us. I don't know if I can name them. Okay, I don't think I'll name them, but like so I was really surprised that they approached us and they were like, "Oh, we the Philippine branch, wanted to work with us." And little did I know, like after knowing our process and all, they did their own textile recycling program. And I'm like,
Whoa.
I was really heartbroken with that. I'm like,
Oh my,
how
I
can you
feel
do
for
that?
you. Been there, done that.
Yeah, how can you do that to a solo founder with a 4-month-old social enterprise? Like really, I was like competing with a multi-billion-dollar brand, and I just can't believe they did that to me. And so after that, honestly, I got really scared of collaborating with big brands. But now, like when brands approach us, it's usually not from the same fashion. Like they're not from the same industry, but like for example, right now we have an upcoming project with a beauty product. With their packaging, they want their new packaging to be made by Phinix. Things like this. And right now we also want to we have our dream brand collaborations as well, like for example one of the biggest furniture brands in the world, they're opening here in the Philippines and we really want our brands to be carried by them, so we really want to collaborate with them. Hopefully they don't steal our textile recycling process. Well, that was very traumatic, but so right now really if there's anyone who want to collaborate with us, I really make sure first to do diligence on what is the outcome that they really want to happen. Yeah.
Exactly. And what is your experience in working with retail stores? Because when we talk about fashion items, it's really hard to sell them unless and until they are in the books in the retail stores. Because I personally deal with selling books, and the first thing that everyone asks, which bookstore can we get it from? They never say, can I purchase it online? They're like, which bookstore can we get it from? I think you might have got the same response that which
Yeah,
store we can get it from. So have
that's
you
true.
tried like working with them, and like what was your experience? What's the process like? What are the challenges? I think a little bit of insight on that can be really helpful.
So, when we first did our retail launch, we first launched in Kuala Lumpur. Um, and then, so we had like we only did pop up stores, not really like have our own stores, but we were fortunate enough to be placed in like known malls in Kuala Lumpur. Like, for example, Surya Mall is the one under the Petronas Twin Tower. So, it's really a tourist spot where people go. But what I noticed about doing retail or being like having a store, right? Okay, so having a store is one, okay, that's an achievement. But what I learned is if your pop up store is not in a good location, even if the mall has heavy traffic, it's really hard to get sales. So I
Yeah,
remember we were in this like the one that I mentioned in Surya Mall. So we were there, and a lot of people really go there. But then our pop up store, we were placed inside a department store, and then in an area where people really don't go to. So like, okay, it's such an honor to be inside this mall, but nobody knows where we are because it's like looking for a treasure. You have to find us. So that's one thing. And then the other one is okay. So there's this mall that we had a pop up store, and it's really new. It's a hip mall and all that. But then the parking was bad, so not a lot of people wanted to go. So there are other factors. So I guess I have to say is like having a physical or brick and mortar store is okay. Like I said, our customers really love touching and seeing our products, but you have to take note of the location really. Where you will be placed is very important. And
and
then the
yeah,
oh,
sure.
I mean the
The,
second strategy. So because of that, the second strategy we did was instead of us actually putting up the pop up stores, we decided to do consignment with stores that actually have really good locations and can do all the work for us. All we have to do is deliver our products. They take a cut, and that's it because they do all the promotions, all the sales, and the location was good. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So let's move towards like the scaling part. For example, you had been working a lot on this particular idea. You took it from just an idea to actually a very big
Mm.
thing that now people really look up to you, and a lot of people get inspiration from you. When I heard your story, I was like so much inspired, and I really, really wanted to speak to you. So let's talk a little bit about what are the best practices for scaling, because you are a solo founder. I have had kind of that journey myself. So it's really hard for us to actually like look into so many things and yet are being able to scale while keeping in mind that we have a business model to look into, technology and then operations and all that. So what was your strategy to scale?
Okay, this is a funny thing to answer, but the way to scale is to actually start small. Wow, but if you get it, but like that's how the way for Phinix to scale, it was really a slow process. So if I would go into detail, actually, when I started Phinix, I actually the business model of Phinix then was actually customized footwear because I didn't have the funding to go full retail. What I did was I actually the our business model then was customized footwear wherein my target customers were brides. What we did is we upcycled their mom's wedding gowns and then we turned them into
Wow,
bridal shoes for their wedding day. So that was the business model of Phinix for like 3 years. And then
amazing.
we decided to go retail this time because what I did in those 3 years were I applied to so many business competitions abroad. So people think I was just doing it to compete, but really the strategy was to build my network and all. And so uh, what my way to scale was starting with a small business model first, and then joined a lot of competitions. And then finally, on our, like, I think this was on our third year, we had an opportunity to be accelerated by the Malaysian government. So Malaysia has this program, this agency called Magic, which is the Malaysian Global Innovation and Creativity Center, and they had a global accelerator program. And so Phinix was invited there. I lived there for 4 months, which actually opened doors for us in Kuala Lumpur. And that was like, that immediately made us scale on an international level. Now we're beyond the Philippines. We are now in Malaysia. And because of our time in Malaysia, that allowed us to launch full retail and in the 3 malls in Malaysia. So, I mean, I say it now in a very simple way, but that was like 4 years. And now we just turned 5. So it was a long journey to scale. Yeah.
I can truly relate to that. And similarly, can you share a little bit more insights about what skills a founder or a this social entrepreneur needs to have to actually before even start applying for grants? Because as I remember, there are a lot of things that you actually need to have, like a slide deck and all those things. So if you can kind of like list some of those things, because that would help the KhudKaar Center to work with these women entrepreneurs and help them prepare that relevant material before they even start applying for that.
Okay, this is a really good question, and I actually do talks about this. So one of my biggest strengths really is actually I'm a storyteller. I'm actually good in pitching. I think it's one of my strengths. But the way to actually when you're starting a business, um, for me personally, one of the first things I work on, other than, okay, for example, you already know your product, you know how to do your operations and how to produce that product. First step is actually having a really, really good brand. And when I say brand, it's not just the logo, but you have to think of the name, even down to the color schemes, what would be the look of your whole brand, because this will all translate to what your content will look like, who your target market is. It will translate to everything that you will be doing in the business. So think of your brand. I highly suggest that there's a lot of actually worksheets online, like you can to help you build your brand. But I, as an entrepreneur, as an aspiring entrepreneur, that's the first thing I actually focus on, which is the whole brand. Because if I already know my product, that I'm speaking, if I already know the product, okay. So the first step is really branding, and then two is another thing, I guess two, but it's also part of branding, is you really have to know who your target market is. Like I've been saying this repeatedly throughout this whole interview, but you have to know your target market well, because you have to know who you're serving, so that you can improve your product, and you know that people will actually buy it because you have a market that you can actually serve. So those are two things you can do online and research, and write down. These are things that you can start on, and then I think those are the first two steps for me: branding and knowing your target market. Yeah, there.
And now coming towards the last part, let's talk a little bit about raising funds. So, being a female founder, how was your experience while like raising funds? What are some of the opportunities? Because you mentioned that you applied in a lot of global opportunities. So I think
Yeah.
that probably might be applicable to here women entrepreneurs in Layyah as well, that they can possibly outreach them as well. So can you share some of the examples or names which these women can actually apply to and participate in, and possibly try their luck to actually win something?
Actually, this is a very good question, and I guess sharing my experience can actually maybe provide inspiration to those who are listening. Because my first, can I just share that my first competition? So I love joining a lot of programs and competitions. So because number one, it really helps me refine my business model and helps me validate it. Like the more I join competitions, the more that I know that people will actually believe in it, because the judges are, these are mentors. So they know if your business will, really go through or not. But the first competition that I actually joined to was actually British Council. So hello, British Council. I know you're recording this talk, but so it was a social enterprise competition by British Council, and that was my first ever pitch. And I just like to share that, okay, right now maybe my strength is pitching, but guys, 6 years ago when I first joined the British Council competition, it was good. It was a good presentation, but the way I handled the questions of the judges, I actually had an argument with the judge on stage. It was like, I told the judge, were you even listening to my pitch? But like you make all these mistakes on your first try, but that's how.
Yeah.
And so I did not stop there. I'm very, you should really leverage on the power of internet and your phone. There's a lot of things. So me, I literally Google social enterprise competition Philippines, or like business competition Southeast Asia or Asia, blah blah blah. Scholarships, grants, blah blah. I'm very very nitty gritty with this one. Like I regularly check them. So this is something you could do for free and on your spare time, but you'll not you for real, like you wouldn't know the opportunities that are there. A lot of people don't actually know that these opportunities exist. So you have to really find them online. You have to be patient with that. Next is my second story is actually in terms of raising funds. So I always share the story of Phinix having this curse. So in my pitch deck, I always share on the last part that Phinix has been awarded like in as champion in 16 different international um, business competitions from 8 different countries. So if you look at that, like wow, 16 in the last 4 years, Allah. But behind that were like 100 rejected applications.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, in this 16 different international awards, when the competition has a grant and the champion takes all, Phinix wins the first runner-up position. So you don't get the money, right? But
Yeah.
if the competition, only the winner will get a trophy.
Yeah.
So Phinix always gets the champion. So if it's a trophy, I win as a champion. If there's a grant, I'm only first runner up. So this was like I was telling myself, is this like a curse? Like if there's a money involved, I never get it. But if there's no money, I'm the winner. So but then it's also a lesson for you as an entrepreneur to always persevere, because sometimes it's just really about the perfect timing. And then finally, so like when we first our first ever grant, well, big grant, was from the United Nations Environment. So like I waited so long to have a big grant, but when my time finally came, it came from the right people, the right institution, which is UN Environment. And because we won this grant, they even made us a documentary that they showed during World Environment Day. So like other than persevering and applying, you should also know the value of perfect timing, because sometimes, join. But if it's not yet your time to win, it's not yet your time to win. So just apply and apply. There, that's my tip, because that's what happened to me. Yeah.
I think I can relate so much to what you said, because I too have had a similar experience, because everyone, like most of the people here in Pakistan, especially the students, when they come, they are like, Umar bhai, what exactly do you do? Because you are like so chill, you are always online. Don't you do anything? And I'm like, bro, I work 8 to 9 hours a day, and sometimes over 12 or 13 hours.
Yeah.
And so one day I was like really curious. So I asked a couple of people in an event. So I asked, okay, guess how many hours do I work? They were like, maybe 1 hour or 2 hours. I was like, are you serious? So people think that being social entrepreneurs, we are like so free all the time, and we have
Yeah.
all the luxuries of the world at our disposal, and we have nothing to do, and
Yeah.
we sit idle.
But
So
they don't see it.
yeah, and it's really hard to actually like make them realize that you actually have to work, and nobody's
Yeah.
going to tell you that you have to work, you have to wake early, or maybe you have to wake up late at night to make
Yeah.
sure that you deliver everything. Nobody's
Yeah.
going to tell you, and nobody's going to pay you, and you are the one who is responsible to pay your employees, manage your expenses, and all those things. And we were like, oh yeah, you get so much money, you are so much rich. And they really do not know the dynamics that how much we spend on a monthly basis on just
Like,
payrolls and operational expenses. It's really hard. But I
and
think your
sorry, and just to share to what you were saying, okay, I didn't share this part, but like in terms of raising the funds, like so I was doing all these competitions and all, and on the side I actually had a day job. Like, I was doing online remote for 4 years. I was, like I said a while ago, I was a social media
same,
manager. I needed to fund myself and able to put up my business, you know. So these are things that you also have to consider, you know.
yeah,
So other than working 8 to 9 hours on our social enterprise, I was also serving other clients. So I have food to eat and pay my electricity, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I can also relate to that because in the initial years, I myself was doing a day job in school. I was teaching in college just to have enough cash so I can pay my editors and the designers so they actually get paid on time. So it was
Yeah.
really hard. So whatever I would earn, I would just give it away. And my mom is like, "Are you insane? What's the purpose of you making money that if you just have to give it all away?"
I
So
know,
I
I
was
know.
like, so I was like, I think one of the key lesson here is to actually like look at the bigger picture because
Yeah.
most of the people think that they are just in it for short term. They just want to do something, make some quick money, and then just relax. It doesn't happen that way in
Yes.
entrepreneurship at all. In entrepreneurship, you if you are stepping into this field, consider that your next 5 years or 10 years, you are booked on this thing for life.
Yeah.
It's not going away. Either you quit it or you if you are sticking with it, then you have to give everything you have on it. You
I
cannot
know.
say, oh, I don't want to work today. Oh, I don't want to deliver today. You have
Yeah.
to. And if you do not have that kind of passion, and then it's really hard for you to scale. And often the societal pressure is really hard. So I think I would like to have your comment on that. So when you started this thing, what was your family support like, or like your peers? Wouldn't they be telling you, or just do a corporate job or do something like that, maybe go into teaching, you have masters, because that's ideally what happens in Pakistan. Do a bachelor's, then masters, and then possibly go for teaching. If you cannot go into teaching, then just do another PhD and then go into teaching. So then I was like, excuse me, you spent half your life just to teach, and there's no practical application out of it.
I
So what was your experience like?
Okay, thank you for this wonderful question. But so like what I mentioned a while ago, I took a pre-med because we are a family of doctors and nurses. So I was forced into that field because we are a family of doctors and nurses. But I was a rebel, and when I actually transferred to clothing technology, I didn't tell my parents until the first day. And when I did, because I wasn't wearing my medical uniform, I was like in my fanciest dress because fashion school, you know? And so my mom was like, "Why are you not wearing your white medical uniform?" And I'm like, "Mom!" And then I started crying. I told them. And so I was grounded for 3 months. My aunts didn't want to speak with me. You know, I had like my grandmother got mad at me. So these were sacrifices that I had to make. And you know, like I have to make double effort right now to show them that, you know, I chose the right path for myself. And so through the years my parents did like support, like they can see it. But right now, like after I took up my masters, there's so much pressure from them to like how Phinix should be able to be, you know, earning in
Yeah,
millions, you know. And then
I get that every day.
I know, and not only that, but like even right now, my parents are like, maybe it's time to have a stable job from, you know, build Phoenix on the side, and then maybe you could have
Yes,
a very stable job, you know. Because right now, after taking my master's, they feel like after having this degree, more companies will pay you higher, and so now there's
yes.
more pressure from them to be like, maybe it's time you get other than Phoenix, you know, to have a really like from a big company. That's what they want. Well, that's their indicator of success. So yes, I get this every day, but that's the life we live.
And
Yeah.
And I think before we move to conclude, I just have one last question, and that is about when we are working so hard in our social enterprises. At one point, we have our professional lives where we work every day and spend so much time, and then we also have our personal lives.
Yes.
So, from family and generally from the society, what's the pressure like on like settling down, getting married? I think girls get this a lot. I get it every day. So what's your kind of opinion on that? Because many of the women entrepreneurs here in Layyah, generally women here in are married in pretty early ages, around 18 or so.
Yeah.
So for them the life is really different because they have kids and the family to manage, and then they really do not have that kind of passion or that much responsibility to take on as we can, because we do not have that kind of life. So what was your experience like, and what would you advise to the young women in Layyah and Pakistan who would be listening and tuning in, who are thinking to come into social enterprise and
Yeah.
they are facing the same social pressure? What would be your advice to them?
I think for me, okay, if I could advise this, not just to any girls, like I would always tell myself, I would tell this to my future daughters, but I really maximized my 20s, meaning like, I really started Phinix when I was 24. And prior to that, like you shared earlier, I had my first business when I was 17. So like all these time, I was just building all these businesses. I did have like personal relationships then, but like the whole time I was building Phinix until this day, Phinix is my boyfriend. So I don't have regrets because honestly I really maximized my 20s building Phinix, studying everywhere, competing everywhere, get completing my MAs. But at some point when I turned 30 last year, there was sort of pressure, like seeing my peers, a lot of my peers starting their own families and all. Meanwhile, I was like thinking, where can I get the next funding? Like those are the
True.
things. But then, like personally speaking, I do pray for it. Like, okay, I really want to settle soon because I'm already 31 now. But I, I guess what I mentioned a while ago. I really believe in the power of perfect timing. Like, if
Yes.
my time's gonna come, it's gonna come. But while it's not yet there, I would really like to earn a lot of money with my social enterprise to help more people. So I think my advice is really not be pressured on this. Okay, because there are other factors, like a lot of, especially for women like me now, I'm the eldest. And so my mom and dad, they're really like, you're already in your 30s. You should start thinking about settling down. And I understand them. And this is also my own desire. But like, don't be, try your best, not be pressured. Because I think if you are your most authentic self, whether as an entrepreneur or just you as a woman, or like man or woman, if you live your most authentic life, these the right people will come into your life, whether it's your future husband or your future wife, future co-founder. You just have to live your life in the best and most authentic self, and it will come, hopefully. Hopefully. And our parents don't understand this answer, but that's my take on it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I can 100% second that. Firstly, I'm also not good with relationships. I think because we have our first priority is our startup, and another person is like, you're not giving me enough time. You are ignoring me, and we are like, excuse me, I'm in a meeting. I
Yeah.
cannot take
I
a
know.
1 hour long call. So I think
Yeah.
these are some of the challenges that people need to know, that that's how dating a social entrepreneur is like. They're always busy, and their enterprise will always be their first priority.
I
So
know.
I think we have had a really good conversation, and I'm really thankful to you, Pamela, for taking out so much time out of your life and speaking to our country people. Um, Before we go, is there any last message that you would just want to give to the people who are listening to you right now? That would be it, I guess.
I guess two things for like for everybody. Please practice sustainable fashion, and you can start by, being careful with the clothes in your wardrobe. Try to cherish them and wear them as much as possible. Don't throw them away. And for aspiring social enterprises, I think it's really that entrepreneurs. I mean, or actually any aspiring entrepreneurs, I think it's time that we make it a norm that if we put up a business, there should always be a positive impact to the planet and to the people. Yeah, there.
Thank you so much, Pamela, for joining us. It was really a pleasure, and I learned so much from you. And I felt like I could finally someone I could relate to, a solo founder who has gone through all the steps. I
Yeah.
thought I was the only one, but it was really good, really nice talking to you. And thank you so much, Din Long. I hope you would be streaming that later on. And thank you for the connection.
I
And
know.
and I think that's it. So we would be having our main event on 27th of March in 2021 in Layyah. So stay tuned. And this Lit Talks is going to happen every day. Every day we would have a really amazing founder and a business leader locally as well as globally who would be speaking on various topics. And our main purpose of doing these talks is the capacity building of youth. So with this, thank you so much everyone for tuning in. Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Hi, thank you.